Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Pastor Todd Summer, and I pastor at Faith Victory Church in Auburn, Washington. And I'm reading the Bible every single day of the year in the year 2022. So thank you for joining me. So excited to have you here. Today we're going to read some verses about how the righteous rise up. So let's get into it. Today we have some verses from Leviticus 11, 12, Matthew 11, 1 through 19, and Proverbs 24. So Leviticus 11, clean and unclean food. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, say to the Israelites, of all the animals that lived on the land, these are the ones you may eat. You may eat any animal that is divided, has a divided foot, and chews the cud. There are some that only chew cud or only have a divided hoof, but you must not eat them. The camel, though it chews cud, does not have a divided hoof. It is ceremonially unclean to you. The hyrax, although it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof. It is unclean for you. The rabbit, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof. It is unclean for you. And the pig, though it has a divided hoof, does not chew the cud, is unclean to you. You must not eat their meat or touch their carcasses. They are unclean for you. Of all the living creatures in the water, of the seas and the streams, you may eat of any that have fins and scales. But all the creatures of the sea or streams that do not have fins and scales, whether among all the swarming things or among all the other living creatures in the water, you are to regard as unclean. And since you are to regard them as unclean, you must not eat their meat. You must regard their carcasses as unclean. Anything living in the water that does not have fins and scales is to be regarded as unclean by you. These are the birds you are to regard as unclean and not eat because they are unclean: the eagle, the vulture, the black vulture, the red kite, and any kind of black kite, any kind of raven, the horned owl, the screech owl, the gull, any kind of hawk, the little owl, the cororant, the great owl, the white owl, the desert owl, the osprey, the stork, any kind of heron, the hoopoe, and the bat. All flying insects that walk on all fours are to be regarded as unclean to you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk on all fours that you may eat. Those have jointed legs for hopping on the ground. Of those you may eat any kind of locust, katydid, cricket, or grasshopper. But all other flying insects that have 4 legs you are to regard as unclean. You will make yourselves unclean by these. Whoever touches their carcasses will be unclean till evening. Whoever picks up one of their carcasses must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. Every animal that does not have a divided hoof or that does not chew the cud is unclean for you. Whoever touches the carcass of any of them will be unclean. Of all the animals that walk on all fours, those that walk on their paws are unclean for you. For whoever touches their carcasses will be unclean till evening. Anyone who picks up their carcasses must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. These animals are unclean for you. Of animals that move along the ground, these are unclean for you: the weasel, the rat, any kind of great lizard, the gecko, the monitor lizard, the wall lizard, the skink, and the chameleon. Of all those that move along the ground, these are unclean for you. Whoever touches them when they are dead will be unclean till evening. When one of them dies and falls on something, that article, whatever its use, will be unclean, whether it is made of wood, cloth, hide, or sackcloth. Put it in water, and it will be unclean till evening, and then it will be clean. If one of them falls into a clay pot, everything in it will be unclean, and you must break the pot. Any food you are allowed to eat that has come in contact with the water from any such pot is unclean, and any liquid that is drunk from such a pot is unclean. Anything that one of their carcasses falls on becomes unclean, or an oven or a cooking pot must be broken up. They are unclean, and you are to regard them as unclean. A spring, however, or a cistern for collecting water remains clean, but anyone who touches one of these carcasses is unclean. If a carcass falls on any seeds that are to be planted, they remain clean. But if water has been put on the seed and the carcass falls on it, it is unclean for you. If an animal that you are allowed to eat dies, anyone who touches the carcass will be unclean till evening. Anyone who eats some of its carcass must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. Anyone who picks up the carcass must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. Every creature that moves along the ground is to be regarded as unclean. is not to be eaten. You are not to eat any creature that moves along the ground, whether it moves on its belly or walks on all fours or on many feet. It is unclean. Do not defile yourselves by any of these creatures. Do not make yourselves unclean by the means of them, or be made unclean by them. I am the Lord your God. Consecrate yourselves and be holy, because I am holy. Do not make for yourselves unclean by any creature that moves along the ground. I am the Lord who brought you out of Egypt to be your God. Therefore, be holy, because I am holy. These are the regulations concerning animals, birds, every living thing that moves about in the water, and every creature that moves along the ground. You must distinguish between the unclean and the clean, between living creatures that may be eaten and those that may not be eaten. Leviticus 12. Purification after childbirth. The Lord said to Moses, "Say to the Israelite, a woman who becomes pregnant and gives birth to a son will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days, just as she is unclean during her monthly period. On the 8th day, the boy is to be circumcised. Then the woman must wait 33 days to be purified from her bleeding. She must not touch anything sacred or go to the sanctuary until the days of her purification are over. If she gives birth to a daughter for 2 weeks, the woman will be unclean, as during her period. Then she must wait 66 days to be purified from her bleeding. When the days of her purification for a son or daughter are over, she is to bring to the priest at the entrance to the tent of the meeting a year-old lamb for the burnt offering and a young pigeon or dove for a sin offering. He shall offer them before the Lord to make atonement for her, and she shall be ceremonially clean from her flow of blood. These are the regulations of the woman who gives birth to a boy or a girl. But if she cannot afford a lamb, she is to bring 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, one for a burnt offering and the other for a sin offering. In this way, the priest will make atonement for her, and she will be made clean. Matthew 11, 1 through 19. Jesus and John the Baptist. After Jesus had finished instructing his 12 disciples, he went on from there to teach the priests in the towns of Galilee. When John, who was in prison, heard about the deeds of the Messiah, he sent his disciples to ask him, "Are you the one who is to come, or should we expect someone else?" Jesus replied, "Go back and report to John what you hear and see. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the good news is proclaimed to the poor. Blessed is anyone who does not stumble on account of me." As John's disciples were leaving, Jesus began to speak to the crowd about John. "What did you go out into the wilderness to see? A reed swayed by the wind? If not, what did you go out to see? A man dressed in fine clothes? No, those who wear fine clothes are in the king's palaces. Then what did you go out to see? A prophet? Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet. This is the one about whom it is written, 'I will send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way before you.' Truly I tell you, among those born of a woman, there has not risen anyone greater than John the Baptist. Yet whoever is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has been subjected to violence, and violent people have been raiding it. For all the prophets and the law prophesied until John, and you are willing to accept it. He is the Elijah who was to come. Whoever has ears, let them hear. To what can I compare this generation? They are like children sitting in the marketplace and calling out to others. We played the pipe for you, and you did not dance. We sang a dirge, and you did not mourn. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say he has a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say here is a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. But wisdom is proved right by her deeds. Proverbs 24. Sayings. Saying number 20. I did not envy the wicked. Do not envy the wicked. Do not desire their company, for the hearts plot violence, and their lips talk about making trouble. Saying 21. By wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it is established. Through knowledge its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. The wise prevail through great power, and those who have knowledge muster their strength. Surely you need guidance to wage war, and a victory is won through many advisers. Wisdom is too high for fools. In the assembly at the gate they must open their mouths. Whoever plots evil will be known as a schemer. The schemes of folly are sin, and the people detest a mocker. If you falter in times of trouble, how small is your strength? Rescue those being led away to death. Hold back those staggering toward slaughter. If you say, "But we knew nothing about this," does not he who weighs the heart perceive it? Does not he who guards your life know it? Will not will he not repay everyone according to what they have done? Eat honey, my son, for it is good. Honey from the comb is sweet to your taste. Know also that wisdom is like honey for you. If you find it, there is a future hope for you, and your hope will not be cut off. Do not lurk like a thief near the house of the righteous. Do not plunder their dwelling place, for though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise up again, but the wicked stumble when calamity strikes. Do not gloat when your enemy falls, when they stumble. Do not let your heart rejoice, or what the Lord will see and disapprove and turn his wrath away from them. Do not fret because doers, or be envious of the wicked, for the evildoer has no future hope. The lamp of the wicked will be snuffed out. Fear the Lord and the king, my son, and do not rejoice with rebellious officials, for those two will send sudden destruction on them, and who knows what calamities they can bring. Further sayings of the wise. These are also sayings of the wise. To sow partiality in judging is not good. Whoever says to the guilty, "You are innocent," will be cursed by the peoples and denounced by nations, but it will go well with those who convict the guilty, and a rich blessing will come of them. An honest answer is like a kiss on the lips. Put your outward work in order and get your fields ready. After that, build your house. Do not testify against your neighbor without cause. Would you use your lips to mislead? Do not say, I'll do to them as they have done to me. I pay them back for what they did. I went past the field of a sluggard, past the vineyard of someone who has no sense. Thorns had come up everywhere. The ground was covered with weeds, and the stone wall was in ruins. I applied to my heart to what I observed and learned a lesson from what I saw. A little sleep, a little slumber, and a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief, and scarcity like an armed man. Amen, amen. Well, thank you for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. I would also really appreciate if you leave a like and a comment on this video. That would just help me out. And also, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that. Have a great night, and God bless.